The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Welcome to this morning's Helpline Clinic with your host, James McDonald.
Well, thank you very much, Andrea. I'd like to start by welcoming our participants to our Monday, easy for you to say, our Monday morning helpline, Andrea. See how easy that was? I hope everyone had a fantastic weekend, and I know everyone's going to have a great week ahead here. I want to remind everybody that coming up in January, for those of you that are from the San Francisco coaching group, coming up in January, we've got our boot camp. We're very, very excited about that. It's on the 15th, which is a Friday, 15th of January. So make sure you've made your plans to book that. We're doing it right in Union Square, right in downtown San Francisco. It's a great event. It really is. There's no cost to it. It's only for coaching members. No strangers allowed. And it's a great day. The boot camps are always absolutely phenomenal. It clarifies everything, gives you a really clear and concise course of direction to take. So again, anywhere on the West Coast or nearby, or you just want to come and spend a little time in San Francisco, the boot camp is a great excuse to do that. Just RSVP us and let us know that you're coming, and you can do that right from the coaching website. Okay, now. Today, of course, is our Monday morning helpline, which means it's a free-for-all. We can talk about anything that you bring up for discussion, any questions that you might have. You can type your questions in the chat. If you have a working mic, we can do it that way, whatever you want. I wanted to start, though, with just real quick here. Just something very, very basic that you can do, because you're starting to think about what your focus needs to be in creating a business plan for 2016. And I think a good place to start, or at least to have some clarity on, is where are you doing a good job and where are you not doing a good job? And I would just really easily, if I were you, divide it up basically into some parts that are broken down in the system. In other words, for example, something basic like this. Are you generating leads on a daily basis? Okay, that's a great question. Are you generating leads? Here's the key to it, though, on a daily basis. If you're not generating leads on a daily basis, it means that the marketing that you're engaged in is too sporadic. What you should have some campaigns that run every day. You should have pay-per-click campaigns, online campaigns. Collectively, all the different ads that you're running, something should be generating a lead every day. Right? That's really, really important. That our funnel is literally filling 365 days a year. If it isn't, that doesn't mean that we need to do everything every day. It's a simple question. Are you generating prospects on a daily basis? That means from one thing, perhaps, but every day we need to be filling the funnel with a prospect. There should be no day that goes by where you're not in your email inbox identifying a prospect who's requested information from one of the marketing campaigns that you happen to be running. And if that isn't happening, it tells us that your system of lead generation is still too sporadic. It happens once in a while, inconsistently, instead of consistently and predictably. So some of you are going away for a week over the holidays. You should be generating prospects every day that you're away. The system should not shut down. Something that is in place should be identifying a prospect or two at minimum. Okay, so that's number one. The second thing is this. Are you to the point where you're actually speaking to the leads that you're generating? We spend a lot of time talking about that, especially on the Thursday role play sessions, when really we should be spending a lot more of our time role playing. But we talk about how important it is that you reach the leads that you generate. And I know it's not easy, but if you do a good job and you're diligent in following up with your prospects, you'll probably find that you'll reach 70% of them by calling them at different times, by calling them back as quickly as you possibly can, by making sure that you're not calling from a block or a company phone number. Okay, there are ways that we can reach the majority, certainly, of the prospects, and that's a question that you want to ask yourself. I'm generating these leads, am I reaching them? And then, of course, how are you doing with the universal callback script? Is it, we know that there's a learning curve there, and some of you, get there sooner than others, but everybody eventually gets there if you want to. And want to basically means if you put in the effort to really become an expert with that universal script, you will determine the timing and motivation of prospects. Well, let me say this. 3 things are going to happen. Here's the checklist for how you can assess your success with the universal callback script. Okay, number 1, when you reach a prospect and you use the introduction as it was intended, are prospects mean to you? Are they dismissive of you? Or would you say that they're warmer, appreciative, and more inviting after you've introduced who you are and why you're calling? Because for every one of you that are on the helpline session here today who are really good with the universal callback script, that is your experience. Is when you introduce yourself and you say, hey, it's James calling with Craig Proctor's office at RE/MAX. The reason I'm calling, I got your request last night on my website for the area home sales report. I just wanted to give you a quick courtesy call and let you know I did prepare and email that information to you, Mrs. Smith. I hope that's okay. When you do that like that and the prospect says thank you, that is a key component of your success. That gives you a huge check mark. Is the prospect open, inviting, kind, appreciative? Are you eliciting a positive reaction when you call your prospects? If you say to me, nope, they all swear at me, it tells me you haven't mastered the introduction. That's why. If you don't say what Craig designed, then you will be met with opposition. There's just no question about it. A prospect receiving a phone call from a salesperson is not going to be welcomed. So we have to do an awesome job. So number 1, the checklist. Are you greeted with appreciation or openness? In other words, is it positive? Okay, number 2, are you determining the timing and motivation of your prospect? In other words, when you get off the phone with your prospect, are you able to say, I know more about my prospect's moving plans than I did before I picked up the phone and called them? Because there are some of you, when you're early in the process and you're learning, the answer is no, I don't. I don't have any idea. The prospect gave nothing but one-word answers, and I really have no clue as to where they're going, when they're going, why they're going, none of that. So this is part of your checklist. This is how you know whether you're improving, whether you're reaching that level of mastery with the universal callback script. Is you should be able to get off the phone, regardless of the outcome, and be able to say, I know when they're leaving, I know why they're going, I know what their plans are or what their motivation is. Understanding motivation and timing is the purpose of the phone call. Okay, so that's number 2. And then number 3 is this. Here's how I know that you get an A+ with the universal callback script, is that every time you get off the phone with a prospect, you have recommended a course of action for that prospect. You've never just said, okay, well, have a good day. We'll talk to you later. You will always recommend a course of action to that prospect. And think about it. There are only 3 possible courses of action. Either number 1, you've booked an appointment with them. Number 2, you've offered them your newsletter and to follow up with them down the road. Okay, in other words, there's motivation there, but their timing is down the road. So you offer them more information, perhaps in the form of a newsletter, and you've offered to follow up with them later. The course of action is to follow up with them later. Number 3, the only other course of action, you either want to meet with them now, you want to meet with them later, or you want to meet with them never. That's it, though. There are 3 courses of action that you will recommended courses of action. I recommend an immediate appointment. I recommend that I send you additional follow-up information, and I follow up with you at a later time when you're closer to making your move. Or I recommend that you're never going to represent business to me, so I recommend you have a great day and talk to you later. But there are only 3 possible outcomes. So here's how I know that you've reached that mastery level with the universal callback script. Number 1, you're greeted with warmth, not opposition. That shows me that the introduction, you got that down cold, and prospects can't help but say, thanks, yes, I got the information, or I appreciate your phone call. Number 2, you have determined timing and motivation. Your questions and your ability to listen to the answers have given you timing and motivation. So you know how good that prospect is, where their motivation lies, etc. And then number 3, you always recommend a course of action to that prospect. Okay, so those steps are extremely important in your developing your skills with the universal callback script. Okay, now here's the next part of the checklist that you want to consider when you're looking back at 2015 and forward to 2016. When you meet with buyer and seller prospects, what happens? What does your success rate look like? When you meet with a seller, what is your, first of all, are you finding that the sellers are in a position to list their home? And if so, are you procuring the listing? When you procure the listing, are you procuring that listing at at conditions and terms favorable to you? Are you getting paid what you're worth? Are you pricing the property competitively? Are all of those things happening? We need to look at that, because if not, we need to work on your presentation. Okay, well, you need to work on your presentation, obviously. So we can look at that. When you meet with buyers, are you getting buyers signed to contracts? All of these things help you determine what might be failing, so that in 2016 you can look at it and say, well, I'm clearly generating enough leads. I'm clearly converting leads. I'm batting 50% with my appointments. Maybe that's the area that I need to focus. What we're looking to do is fix what's broken and understand that if we don't know what's broken, what is far more likely, the odds are that what we're going to do is we're going to fix what isn't broken, because if there are 10 links in the chain and one of those links is broken, but we don't know which link it is, the odds are 9 in 10 that we're going to fix a link that isn't the problem. So it's very important that you be able to, over the holidays, well, as you're preparing for 2016 and you're putting together a business plan, you're determining what it is you want to do, it's important that we look at all of these things so we know this is working really well, my lead conversion is working well, my appointments are working well, all of these things, and we can pinpoint identify what isn't working well. Now, here's the other thing that I'll suggest before we move on to your questions. If you choose a goal, whether that's an income value, whether it's a volume of business, whether it's a number of transactions, okay, here's a really good way of doing this is if you select a number of transactions, let's arguably say, for 2016, and you work it backwards and you break it up into, okay, if I need to complete X number of transactions and I've got 50 weeks to do it, then that means I have to do X number of transactions per week. And if I need to do X number of transactions, how many leads is it requiring me to close one transaction? And how can I make it so that it requires less leads for me to close one transaction? See, that's a good way of looking at it is if you're not efficient with the leads that you generate, you don't speak to them, you're not very good at converting them, when you book appointments, you don't always get the contract signed, it means you need a lot of leads. The better opportunity is how do I do more with the number of leads that I'm generating right now? So that way, as we improve in these areas, we can change our business plan. We can change our strategy on, not our strategy, but our numbers on the fly. If it requires fewer leads to do more, then we can adjust that as we move on throughout the year. But very simply, we can just look backwards and say, okay, if we want to accomplish this based on history, what do I need to generate on a daily basis in order to accomplish this? And in the beginning here, it might be staggering. You might look at it and say, my God, I need to generate 50 leads a day to achieve my goal. Well, the objective isn't to figure out how to generate 50 leads a day. The idea is to figure out how do I make the leads that I'm generating more effective? How do I convert them more efficiently so that it requires fewer leads to do one transaction? And that's all of the things that we just talked about. Talking to the prospects, determining timing and motivation, booking appointments, successfully signing contracts, all of these things will if you get better at those things, it will require you to generate fewer leads to accomplish more. That's the solution. Anyway, we'll probably have a chance to get more in detail on these things as we wind down December here. But I wanted to touch on that as this was the first helpline session of December 2015. So, hey, there you go. Now, Andrea, why don't we take some chat questions here and anyone that has a working audio mic, and we'll just hammer these out with the time that we have left.
Yes, sir. If you haven't done so already, go ahead and click the hand icon so I know you have a question, or type in the chat box. Our first guest is Emil Belvin. Your telephone line is open.
Hello, good morning.
Hello, Emil. How are you?
I'm doing all right, everybody. I was giving a call, man, because I'm one of those individuals that hasn't really generated many leads. And, you know, I did the Success website for about 3 weeks, probably got about 4 leads through that. I just signed up with Bold Leads maybe about a week ago, and got 1 lead, a partial lead on that one. And I'm actually, since I've been on the phone, just kind of put a little something in the mail to them since I have their address. So lead generation has been a little slow on that in that respect. So I'm trying to figure out, like, you know, should I be spending more money on other things, and if so, how much time should I, you know, be allowing to kind of get this thing going? I signed up with you guys back in September, by the way. Yeah,
I was going to say, honestly, what you need to focus on absolutely is lead generation. Okay, now, there are a dozen different things that you could do to generate leads, and this is what you're discovering. If one thing that you do doesn't successfully generate leads, then very, very quickly we need to change it, get rid of it, and try something else. Absolutely. Because if our strategy is we keep doing it hoping that eventually it's going to start working, we're going to be disappointed, and months are going to go by, and we're going to realize that that's not working. Now, here's the thing with Success Website that everyone needs to understand. Success Website are a website. It would be like having a telephone and thinking that by virtue of having a telephone, it ought to ring. But of course, it doesn't work that way. The only way the phone's going to ring is if we proactively put the phone number out there and give a reason to call the phone number. Think of your website exactly that way. Here's what's happening with your website. The website is sitting there and could be ultra effective, but what we're doing to compel prospects to go to the various pages on the website, that has proved to be ineffective. So whatever you did, maybe they set up Google ad campaigns, whatever were offered in those ads clearly wasn't effective because prospects were not compelled and driven to your website. Maybe you ran some Facebook ads. Same thing is true there. We've got to look at what you're doing to drive response to the website. And if we can remedy that, then we'll start generating leads from the Success website. But this is the problem, is if a knee-jerk reaction is to get rid of it, it would be like getting rid of a phone because it doesn't ring. And it might be premature to do that. Now, as far as Bold Leads is concerned, I would get on the phone with them immediately this afternoon, because I know way too many of our students that use Bold Leads and absolutely generate leads from it on a daily basis. There is a reason why you're not generating a sufficient number of leads from it, and I don't know what that reason is, but they would, but you need to communicate with them and find out why. It has to lie in the ads that you're running and what you're offering in the ads. It's either too specific or it's not specific enough. Something is happening with what you're offering. So I would get on that. But yes, definitely explore some of the other lead generators, local newspapers, direct mail, using Every Door direct mail, super inexpensive, right? I think it's 17 cents a piece to do that, but very, very effective as well. There are lots of things you can try. Now, Emil, I assure you of this. Whatever you try that finally generates a response for you, it will always generate a response. Okay, just like when you do something and it doesn't work, if you keep doing that thing, it will always not work. But on the flip side, this is also true. When you hit on the thing that generates a response, it will always generate a response. And you can plug that in, hit the repeat button, and do it over and over again. But you need to work very closely with your coach here, Emil, and we need to get this down really quick. Because,
yeah, I agree, because I mean, I you know, the money that we put into this, and we're trying to, you know, definitely kind of put it on their table or their desk to kind of do all the work. So I'm not really that hands-on with what AdWord or campaign they're using per se.
Well, think of it this way: your job maybe isn't so much to remedy the problem, but your job is the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right? If what you're doing and spending money on isn't effective, then we can't give it a week or two to say, well, let's see if it works. This is direct response. So Direct response means it immediately elicits a response or it does not. So if you do something and it doesn't immediately generate a response upon running, we have to get in touch with, you know, whoever is, you know, if it's bold leads, if it's success, we have to immediately get in touch with them and let them know. They've all been doing this for a long, long time. So they know what to test, what to change, what to, you know, what variables might matter, might make a difference. But if weeks linger on where we're doing something that doesn't work, I assure you they're not looking at your system to see if it's working. Only you are doing that. Once they get off the phone with you, and they've, you know, done whatever they've done, they're never going to look at it again. Never. If you don't call and say, hey, we did this and this is the result, we need to change it, then they will change it. But you know, and obviously this isn't just for you, Emil, but you know, for anybody that's in this position, understand what we're embarking in here. It's called direct response marketing. Direct response means exactly that. It is immediately going to elicit a response or it isn't. And we don't need weeks and weeks to determine that something that doesn't generate a response is never going to. We need to get on the phone and change it. And, you know, think of it this way, okay? Let's say that I'm Success Website or I'm Bold Leads, and this Emil guy is calling me every day. I am super motivated to get this Emil guy off my back by fixing his lead generation so that every day he's generating leads. You know what? I want Emil to be busy following up with the leads so that he's not bothering our customer support. The easiest way to do that is by fixing it so that it is effective. Believe me, it is in their best interest to make this work for you, but it's going to require testing and different approaches. But the only way that's going to happen, you've got to be in their ear. So
got it. One other thing I wanted to ask you, James, is in regard to there's a website called Quazoo. I'm not sure if anybody in our coaching program is using that, but if anybody can give me some feedback or yourself, that would be great.
I'm not familiar with that.
All right, so I'll just put that out to the listeners.
Is that a lead generation tool?
Yeah, it was. It's a one for buyers that I came across, and you know, they seem like they got a good thing going. But
look up,
you know,
look up a company as well called Z-Buyer.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah, I'm familiar with them. Yep, through our program.
They do an excellent job as well.
Yeah, the Z-Buyer I think was a little bit more pricey than the Quazoo, and when I priced it out, so just wanted to get a idea if anybody was using or had heard of Quazoo as well.
Okay. Yeah, we'll have anybody type into the chat if they are, and we'll let you know. Thanks, Emil. Okay, who's next, Andrea?
Our next guest with a question is Stephanie Williams. Your mic is now open. Stephanie? Okay, we'll move on to Mario Scanza. Your mic is open.
Good morning.
Hey, Mario, how you doing?
Amazingly well. How are you today?
Excellent.
Two questions. The DISC personality profile. Are we hiring people, in your expert opinion, based on the projected public or personal profile, or the score that wins in terms of whether they're a DIS or C?
Okay, so here's where the test really works, okay? When you do the test properly, it asks you what is most likely like you and what is least like you. All right, now the reason it does that is because what it's trying to do is it's trying to catch inconsistencies in your answer. Now, the reason that there would be inconsistencies in your answer is you're trying to project what someone else wants to hear. So Mario, you sit down with somebody that wants a position on your team. Okay, and they want to project what they think you want them to be. That am I fair in saying that so far?
Yes.
Like that, they might think that, right? Like I know Mario wants to hire, let's say, an outside sales agent. So I need to project to Mario that I'm going to be an awesome outside sales agent. So Mario gives me this test, and I am going to be a little disingenuous in offering in this test who I am. And the way that I'm going to do that is in some of the M column, the most column, I might err on the side of projecting who Mariel would like me to be more than who I am. Okay, now here's how Dr. Marsden designed the test. The least column will catch those inconsistencies. What you'll notice is this: when you do the test and you do the test honestly, what it shows you is consistency in your answers. In other words, the thing that is most like you is very rarely the thing that is least like you. It's almost the opposite, right? So you come out with a very consistent test. So here's what you're going to find. When you're using these tests to help you hire, and that's what they're designed to do, it's to help you. It's not the be-all, end-all, but it's going to help you. You want to pay much more attention, Mariel, to the L column and the average column than you do the M column. Okay, so let me repeat that. You want to pay a lot more attention to the L column. What does the L column tell you about that prospect? Are they a high D, I, S, or C? And you want to pay more attention to the average. But if you only paid attention to the M column, remember, I'm sitting there and I want a job with Mariel. It's highly likely that I'm going to be a little inaccurate, let's politely put it that way, without saying flat out lying, when I'm giving you a description of who I am. I'm going to try to paint myself as the best person for that position, even though it might be a little disingenuous to say the least. Where that's going to be caught, though, is in the L column and in the average of the two. Okay, is that helpful, Mario? Do you understand what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're saying. So just for instance, so I gave this test to my children just to help.
Yeah, but your children, here's the difference with your children, like us. We're not applying for a job. We're not going to be disingenuous. If you look at the chart, okay, remember, you know how you graph the M column, the L column, and the average column? You graph them, right? When all three of the graphs are the same shape, it shows you 100% accuracy in filling out the test. You didn't lie. You were honest in everything. You weren't trying to be something you weren't. Okay, so all three of those charts, they look the same. The graphs all look the same. But your kids aren't applying for a job with you, I wouldn't think. So but when you give the test to somebody who's come in for a job interview, I assure you, if I'm applying for a sales job, I'm going to say that I am most like those qualities that I think Mario would like to hear. You right? You understand?
I understand you 100%. So going back to my original question, let's assume that the person doing the test is being very genuine and they don't have something to gain by, doctoring the test. The most like the person, would that be the projected public, private, or the average of their answer?
You just got it. That's why we do the average. That's exactly why you have the average. Yeah, that's exactly. You know why? Because sometimes we do act, ourselves, and sometimes we act the projected view. So that's the purpose of the average. But remember this, okay? When you are charting on the graph, all three of them, when you're charting them on the graph, if they all look the same, then the answer is you can go with whatever one you want. They're all the same. They're all the same. You don't have to go with one or the other. If the person answers the test the way that you do, what you'll notice is all three of the charts look exactly the same. So you don't have to say, which one do I go with? What do you mean? Go with any one of them. They're all alike. All three are exactly the same. D is their second, I is their highest, S is their third, and C is their lowest. If all three of the charts look like that, you don't need to ask yourself, which one should I go with? They're all the same. What that shows you is they were very honest in answering the questions, the descriptions in the test. But it's when they're not all the same that you want to say, okay, so what's happened here? And what very likely has happened is in the M column, okay, what they're trying to project is what you want them to be as more than who they naturally are. So that's when those three charts don't look the same, and we look at them and say, what should we go with here? What should we go with? And the answer is you want to go with the L and the average far more so than the M when it comes to using this to hire. Okay, great question, Muriel. Thank you for bringing that up. Who's next, Andrea?
Our next guest is Adele Langdon. Your line is open.
Oh, hi. Hi. Good morning.
Yeah, let's go. Good morning. How you doing, Adele?
I forgot everybody's all over. It's not always good morning. I'm doing great. How are you?
Excellent.
So I have a question about my follow-up. I seem to have like a lot of trouble with my follow-up on bold leads, which are also pretty low right now. There are not a lot of them. So for that, the other guy that was talking, I also am having, you know, not that many leads, but the ones that do come in, they're far and few between. And I did call up bold leads, and that does work because they said they adjusted something, and then, you know, I got a couple more. So I would encourage the last guy to do that. However, when I follow up with my regular leads that aren't bold leads, I seem to do way better. But when I get on the bold leads, I have like so much trouble because I'll call up and, you know, hello, and I sent you out the thing, and then they say, oh yeah, thank you. And then the first thing most all of them say that I get, which aren't that many leads, but the ones that I do get, they say, oh, no, I'm not moving. I'm not planning on moving at all. I just happened to see that. So then I feel kind of weird saying.
Okay, but here's yeah, and that's why you want to say, all you want to say is this: if you were to sell your home, would you do it within the next 3 to 6 months? If you were to sell your home, or if you were to sell your home, would you be moving out of the area, or would you look for something else in the area? If you were to go ahead and do that.
So I say that before they say it.
Well, this is what I'm saying. Yeah, why not test that? Let's test. If you tell me that you keep getting the same result over and over again when you do that, then let's do something a little different. Okay? So from now on, when you get a bold lead, let's test this. What you're going to say is this. Instead of right away saying, are you planning on making a move in the next 3 to 6 months? I want you to test this. I want you to say, if you were to make a move, would you stay here locally or move out of the area, hypothetically, if you were to move? Let's soften the question a little bit. See, by making the question hypothetical, it's easier for the prospect to answer it. So hypothetical is, hey, if you were to make a move, would you be staying here locally or would you be moving out of the area? And they say, no, we'd be staying here locally. And then you can say, and do you think you'd look for something within the next 3 to 6 months or so? So why not test that? Let's just test it and see what happens when you do that. Because here's my feeling. There is no difference between prospects that responded to bold leads or anything else. Here's why. Every one of them has done this. They gave up their anonymity in order to get the information. Now, here's what we have found overwhelmingly. The reason somebody gives their name, their contact information, is because they're serious and they're more ready than somebody who doesn't. If somebody legitimately has no interest whatsoever in selling their home, it's highly unlikely that they will give contact information to get information. They just won't do it. But when somebody is serious, so I don't doubt that they're telling you, no, we're absolutely not moving, not at all. But within the next 6 months, when you find out that that home is listed for sale, do not be shocked. Don't say, my God, they lied to me. Now, they're going to be listed. It's not a maybe. They're going to be listed for sale, and there is going to be a big fat commission check paid out to somebody. It's going to happen. But because they told you, no, absolutely, we're not moving, we've got to take a different course in how are we making the prospect comfortable to share their moving plans. Obviously, what's happening right now is they feel like you're a salesperson and they're getting rid of you. Right? They're getting rid of the salesperson, which even if I'm completely motivated, I still want to get rid of the salesperson because they kind of make me uncomfortable. So we've got to come across. Now, I think maybe part of the difference is bold leads provide information to the prospect that we didn't provide. So it's kind of like, you know, we're calling from a more salesy standpoint than leads that we generate on our own. But Adele, I want you to experiment with that. I just want you to reverse those two questions. Okay?
Okay.
If you were to make a move, would you be staying here locally or moving out of the area? And really make sure that they hear that it's hypothetical. You're not saying they are moving. You're saying, if you were to move, would you be staying here locally or would you move out of the area altogether? And
Yeah,
let's see what happens when you do that.
I really like that. Now, the other thing is, if you don't mind a question, is as I'm getting, let's say, you know, I get them to talk just even a tiny bit, then I feel, and they say, no, but we're not going to move, but, you know, we would stand, but we're not moving. How far do I go into this? Because what I will go into is the newsletter. Should I or shouldn't I? Because sometimes I feel that.
First of all, what we've got to remember is this, okay? Couple things. First of all, everybody's moving. All right, so when someone just says, no, I'm not moving, it's kind of like, well, there are two things here, okay? Number one, everybody's moving. I mean, everybody moves eventually. It might be in a pine box, but everyone's moving eventually. Okay, so let's just take that off the table that I'm never moving ever is very rare. People on average move every 5 to 7 years. So to say I'm not moving ever, it's like, yeah, well, some, but it's pretty unlikely. What that is talk is, I want to get off the phone with the salesperson. That's really what I'm not moving ever really means, is get off the phone with the salesperson. Okay, that's number one. But number two, not only do people on average move every 5 to 7 years, but we're not just calling a name out of a phone book. This person asked for real estate information and gave up their contact number to get the information. Do you know who does that? Somebody who's motivated to move. Like, it's just, there's no maybe about it. So we've got to, we just have to understand that that's what's going on. So when they say, no, we're not moving, what we've got to do is we've got to soften the way that we ask the questions, right? And that's why Craig designed them to be hypothetical, right? Like, I get that the prospect says, no, we're not moving, but when we say, you know, do you rent or do you currently own? You know, well, this would be if they were a buyer, but if they're bold leads and they responded to an online home evaluation, we can still say, you know, if the perfect home came available, would you consider purchasing it? Is there any, you know, have you considered that at all? You know, I noticed that you responded to my ad. Are you looking for properties for sale at all? I mean, we can probe knowing what we know about that prospect, which is you've got someone standing in the barber shop who walked in on their own volition, and we're saying to them, are you considering a haircut? And they look at you and they say, absolutely not. But they're standing in the middle of a barber shop that they walked into on their own volition. Can we safely say that they are BSing us and that they absolutely want a haircut? That's why they're in the barber shop. Now, they might not want it right now, right? They might want information on how much it costs or who knows what. But to say that they're absolutely not interested in getting a haircut is ludicrous. This is the same thing. What we need to figure out is, are we asking the questions in a way that's scaring them off? Can we soften the way we ask the questions? And I think that's why, if you can ask the questions more hypothetically, if you were to make a move, when do you think that might be? If you were to make a move, would you be staying here locally or moving out of the area? If you were to make a move, do you think you'd be interested in upsizing or downsizing if you were to make a move? Like, let's soften these questions so the prospect isn't scared away, because that very likely might be what's happening right now, Adele.
And do I go ahead and, if they continue with no, do I?
That's fine, yeah.
The newsletter, or do I say thank you?
And that's why, if you think about it, the newsletter accomplishes that as well. Okay, watch this. We'll do a little role play. Hey, Adele. Okay. Sounds like you're not really considering a move right now, but I do put together a monthly newsletter. It's absolutely free, but it's full of great market information on what's happening with home sales and price fluctuation in the marketplace. It also has some tips in there to prepare if you ever are considering a move. I prepare it every month. I send it out for free. Would you like to receive that, Adele?
Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay, and would it be okay if I followed up with you, but further down the road when you might be closer to actually considering a move? Would it be okay if I followed up with you then, Adele?
Well, I really don't think I'm going to be moving, but, you know, I guess you could.
Okay, then are you certain that you want me to send the newsletter? I mean, I don't have to send it to you, but it is about home selling and what's happening with home prices. If you're not planning on making a move, I don't know if the information would be of value to you.
Okay, I got what you're saying, because I think it's
Hey,
my
Adele,
theme.
would you also like me to send you information on special trip packages that we have to Baghdad? I've got a special package I prepared every month. It's information about trips to Baghdad. Would you like to get information on that? Yes, please. Why? Like, what are you talking about? Let me just get this straight. You want information about moving. Why? Like, this is why if you're going to make the newsletter offer, you have to make it very clear. I'm offering you information about eventually moving. Would you like it? Adele, I don't mind if you say no. I don't. As a matter of fact, if you legitimately are not planning on moving, I want you to say no. Because by saying yes, what you're doing is you're making me think that obviously you're planning a move at some point. Why else would you want information about moving if you weren't planning on moving?
Yeah,
Right?
and I do throw in on the newsletter, like updates on maybe homes in the area or things like that too.
Right. Listen, you're going to position the newsletter that only somebody that was thinking about moving would find that information helpful.
Okay.
Right? That's the idea. So that when they say yes, at least you know, hey, there's no way that anyone would want this information who wasn't at least to a degree motivated to buy or sell. Okay, so you've got to position it that way.
All right, well, that's helpful. I'm going to try that when this call's over. I'm going to get on the phone and try it.
And why don't we do this on Thursday? Why don't you volunteer and we'll do a role play together?
All right, great. Thank you, James. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks, Adele. All right, Andrea, who's next? Do we have any chat questions?
We do. We have a lot of hands and a lot of chats. Hold on one second. Our first chat that we need to get to is from Jean Samuel, and he is asking where he gets the information or the materials referenced in the Platinum Welcome email, or who would he ask to help?
I guess you could email Dana or Andre. I mean, if you send an email to Todd at toddwalters.com, I'm sure you'll get that information. It is Todd. Is it Todd at toddwalters.com, Andrea?
Yes, Todd at toddwalters.com.
Well, he'll send you in the right direction. But I know that Dana, and she's probably Dana at toddwalters.com.
Yes.
Would be likely. I know Dana will get it. Whatever you want, she'll get it to you immediately. She's awesome.
Okay.
Next.
Now, Ellen, she typed in a question, and she also raised her hand. And this question she's had for a little bit now. We did get to it Friday. So, Ellen, I've opened your mic.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi, James. I'm trying to get some feedback or input about holiday greeting cards, whether you think it is worth sending out or not, whether you think we should spend maximum spend on it for the nicest possible greeting card, or just some little touch.
Well, number one, I don't know if you've ever been to one of our boot camps with Lester, but there's a great company called Send Out Cards. Are you familiar with them?
Yes, I was at the one recently with him, and there was just so much good information, I was a little overwhelmed. Okay,
well, write that one down. It's called Send Out Cards. And of course, it's never a bad idea to do that. Here's what I would suggest, though. The cards are going to be branded. Of course, they're going to come from you. And you are going to include some kind of unique selling proposition. Okay, so all of the usual holiday pleasantries, but you're absolutely going to associate you with a performance guarantee of some kind.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
okay,
and I would go to Send Out Cards, and I would design it through Send Out Cards because it's super cheap to do it that way.
Wonderful. And they do the mailing also?
They sure do.
Terrific. All right, so my other question, I think you've already answered, was do we do it just from John and Mary Smith, or do we include real estate identifiers so they know?
Absolutely, of course, that's the only reason you're doing this, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
You're going to kill two birds with one stone, right?
Very good, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Our next question comes from Mitzi, and she types in, if you're supposed to follow up with a lead within 5 minutes of getting it, wouldn't it make sense to not lead generate if you're going to be away, say on vacation or holiday?
Yeah, no, it wouldn't make sense. Here's why. Just because it would be ideal to follow up very quickly, it doesn't mean you always can, right? So no, don't confuse that message. The sooner you can respond to a prospect, the better. But that doesn't always mean you can, right? And how about this? If you can set your system up so that the follow-up, in other words, sending the information is automated, then to the prospect, you did follow up with them immediately, right? Like if I can go on and I can request properties and you've got your IDX or HDX set up so that it sends properties, then to the prospect, you did follow up with them immediately. Now, if that means you're not going to call them on the phone till you get back, well, that's okay. I mean, is it the best? No, but it's better than not generating the leads at all and starting all over again. So, yep, that's a message that's been lost here. You know, that the idea is if you can't call the leads back immediately, you shouldn't bother, is just so erroneous. That's not even remotely true. As a matter of fact, I'll tell you that it is not uncommon at all that you generate a lead, you try to follow up with that lead 5 times, and a week has gone by, and the 6th time you call that lead back, they answer the phone, you convert them into an appointment, you get a listing or a buyer, signed a contract, and you close the deal. And it took you 5 or 6 attempts to even reach them over the course of a week. So a week went by before you talked to them, and it still was very successful that you did. So to say if you can't call them back in 5 minutes, you might as well not bother, is absolutely wrong. Is the best case scenario to call them back quickly? Absolutely, you'll see that. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't generate the lead if you can't call them back in 5 minutes. See, here's the honest truth as well. You can't control that. In other words, if a prospect responds to an ad at 11:30 at night and you are sound asleep, you cannot call them back for another 8, 9, 10 hours. Well, then should we not bother? We shouldn't bother calling them then because we didn't get to them in 5 minutes, so we shouldn't bother. It's just not true. It is absolutely not true. You'd be better off. Now, I'm not saying that means you need to spend a fortune. If you're going away for a week over the holidays, I'm not saying that you should spend thousands of dollars. No one's suggesting that. But you shouldn't shut down your lead generation, right? As a matter of fact, this is what you might find. You're gonna have prospects. Oh, how do I turn that off? Sorry, hang on a second here. Bring her muted. Sorry about that. You are going to find that over the holidays, you're going to have a lot of prospects respond to your messages because a lot of people aren't working. Because they aren't working, they're going to have more time to spend, reading newspapers, online. In other words, more time finding your ads. And not only that, but people over the holidays are sitting down thinking about their plans for 2016. And if one of their plans is moving, then hey, they've got time, they've got downtime there, they've got days off. It's highly likely they respond to those messages over that time of year. So I would never shut it down over that time, even if you are not going to be physically available to follow up with those leads. They're excellent prospects, and they will be excellent prospects when you are able to follow up with them. Great question.
Okay, our next question. Julio is asking where he can find the editorial for the Zero Down program. He said he's been trying to generate it, but he can't find it. He can only find the ad, which is for best financing. Do you know if we still have this program or if it was replaced by the best financing?
Yes, it was, and here's why. It's because you do not offer Zero Down. Your lender does. Okay, so, and we're going to call it 100% financing. Is there a way, is there any lender in your marketplace that has available 100% financing? Now, I didn't say that they will give to any buyer. The buyer has to qualify, but is it available? In other words, can you say homes are available to purchase with 100% financing, which means zero down? Does that exist? Is there any program from a lender in your marketplace that offers 100% financing? Now, if the answer is yes, then any property qualifies. It's the buyer that has to qualify, which could be said about any home purchase, right? The home is available for sale to any buyer that qualifies, but the property is for sale and it's available for whatever financing is available. So if I say this property is available with no money down, is that true? Yes. That doesn't mean that every buyer qualifies, but not every buyer qualifies to buy it at all. So you've got to find a lender that will offer 0% or 100% financing on the property. And if and when you find that lender program, you now can run ads offering a free list of properties with no money down. You could do that, absolutely. Are those properties available with no money down? Yes. Now here's the key. When the prospect responds and you determine that they are not able to purchase the property with no money down, the property is still available, but they might not qualify for it. All you have to do is, what obviously is their hot button, is the down payment. So all you need to do is you need to work with them and determine what is the lowest down payment that they do qualify for. And can you help them or not? If not, let them go. If yes, boom, you just generated a great prospect. They may not get zero down, but they might have a program that offers them a lot less down than they maybe thought. And it's remarkable, especially with first-time buyers. They think they need a lot more down than they actually do. You know, first-time buyers think, well, I absolutely need 10%, 20%, 25% down. That's what they might think. Whereas you might be able to say, well, I have lenders that can do as little as zero down, depending on where we sit. So let's figure that out. One of the benefits of working with you is that you work with lenders like this that have these great programs available to first-time buyers. Good question. Okay, and by the way, look what Andrea just pulled up.
And we just had a member ask, where did I go to get this? So you just go to the ad generator. You go to the editorials. There's also a classified version. Go to buyers. And then item ID 1020, best financing. We've got, you can generate the ad, the report, and the hotline script is all listed here.
Very good.
Okay, John Brackett typed in, he would like to ask a question over the phone, but he removed himself. So I'm going to see if he's still on with us. Okay, John, your line is now open.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
How are you, John?
Hey, I'm doing really good, bud, and I appreciate you asking. Here's my question. I had a seller presentation this past week. I believe it was on Friday, and I have a couple today as well. And so I ran into this scenario before where, you know, how you say you have to really determine what offer you make. Are they a sell prospect first or a buy prospect first? In this case, I qualified them to be a sell prospect first, but the seller was a high C personality, and so what I did was I started getting into the details first because I thought that would be more compatible with their personality, and I wanted to be sure that I didn't run out of time like I did on another presentation because of how they wanted me to speed things up. So I started getting into, you know, after we went over some numbers, right, to appease the personality type, I started getting into the offers because he said, hey, look, why don't you just give me your, you know, your 3 best offers. So I had a printout that I use as a point of reference for demonstration purposes.
Okay.
But now here's where I think, and I'm asking for some feedback. So when we got to the end, you know, I went and I tested for the close, but when I did that, the comment was, hey, look, well, let me follow up. Now, there are two errors there. One, he was married, and his spouse was in their decisions, right? Yeah. Which is not
that's
common.
always, yeah, I mean, you're asking someone to list their home without their partner is pretty tough.
Right.
So if you identify right off the bat that number one, this person is a high C, number two, their spouse is in there, you almost want to operate knowing what you're going to do here is you're not going to press for the contract. You're going to be the one that suggests that they think about it and talk to their spouse.
Okay.
Because if you're the one that suggests it, they're going to be like, wow, that's really great. That's exactly what I wanted to hear.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I really appreciate you. I kind of thought that. Now it naturally turned out that way as you would suspect, but no, I did not suggest that. He did.
Yeah, and see, there's a difference between them suggesting it and you suggesting it. If you suggest it, agree, they're going to feel very comfortable with you. Why? Because you didn't pressure them. As a matter of fact, you did the opposite. So the likeliness of you being able to book an appointment to come back and see them becomes a lot more reasonable, a lot more likely. But if, in fact, you scared them away, well, now, I'm not saying it's impossible, but you must agree it's more challenging now.
So what is the follow-up, James? You know, when you're following up to...
Well, I'm hoping that you didn't give them a definite price.
No, we didn't even get into that.
Okay, well, that's good then. That's your reason. You know, you have two reasons. Okay, first of all, are they staying local?
The home is they are. The home is actually an investment property, and so yeah, they're staying put. They're just selling to liquidate that to buy something else.
Okay, so perfect. Okay, so here's why we need to meet again. Number one, I've put together some sold properties and some listed properties in the marketplace that'll give us a good idea of what your investment property would likely sell for. But more importantly, I want to go over your criteria so we know exactly what you're looking for, so that I can make sure that as soon as the good deals come on the market that match what you're looking for, they're sitting in your email inbox. So twofold. One, want to go over some comparable properties so we have a really good accurate idea of what your investment property is going to sell for and what you're going to have left in your pocket. Number two, I want to take down your exact criteria so that I can email you instantaneously all of the great deals, foreclosures, bank foreclosures, distress sales, etc., the second they're available on the market, including any private sales that I have available as well. It's free, no obligation. When's a good time to meet? And this time you make damn sure that they're meeting with their spouse.
Right. So the second meeting, right, the idea is for both parties to be there.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Because here's what you're going to do differently this time. If they're not ready to list that property, you're going to get them signed to a buyer contract, and you're going to give them the cancellation guarantee if you need to make sure that you do not leave there without them as your clients.
Right.
They have to be your clients. And here's the deal. If they sign a contract, they're your clients. It doesn't matter if it's a buyer contract or a listing contract. If they sign a contract, they're your clients. And the likeliness of you getting all their business is highly likely. But they've got to be your client, which means they have to hire you.
Understood. Okay, great. James, one more really quick follow-up question regarding the DISC personality profile. So I'm trying to forward hire an admin, and so I want to start that interview process now. And so my question is this: someone asked this earlier today about, which personality profile to hire against, and you answered that really well. But now for the admin, was it a SC personality or a CS with D? I don't recall the...
Well, remember this, okay, the C part of the personality is the accuracy part. It's the detail part. Right. So remember this. You want somebody who's really, really tuned to detail. So having C is critical in their personality. Okay? S is steadiness and consistency. In other words, they will never, ever get bored of every day showing up at 8:30 a.m., sitting down at their desk and doing exactly the same thing every day for the rest of their lives, because you might think that's insanity and I would kill myself. They think I would kill myself if it wasn't like this. That's right. The S in the personality, right? So the C is the detail, okay? The S is the steadiness, the consistency. Those are two huge traits of a great administrative assistant. Now, they really don't need to have much in the way of D. They don't really need to be assertive, although everyone does have some D in them. it doesn't really need to be critical in that position. However, having a little bit of I is a good idea if they're going to be doing things like answering the phone.
Yes, they will.
Right. So not being a complete mouse is probably good. So a little bit of I makes them a much more pleasant, easy to talk to person. The D is not relevant, but a little bit of I is good. But I'll tell you, for an administrative person, the C followed by the S is very, very important. If they had a low score on either the C or the S, they're probably not going to be a very good fit.
Okay. And then when you say low score, how are you defining low?
Okay, low score means lower than the D or the I.
Oh, got it. Okay. Got it.
Right?
Okay, awesome. I appreciate the summary. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, Andrea, let's take a couple more of the chat questions that are waiting here.
Okay, we have Jordan who says, can you talk more about the proper timing to schedule the listing presentation? For example, a seller states they want to list in 3 weeks, or in 1 month, or in 2 months. At what point do I want to show up at their house?
Okay, so number one, if they are staying local, you want to meet with them immediately. You want to meet at their house immediately. That doesn't mean you have to give them the listing presentation. It doesn't mean you have to talk about pricing. It doesn't mean any of that stuff. But if somebody has a home to sell, and they are not going to sell that home for a month or so, but they are looking because they're going to find something in the area, book an appointment at their house and say, hey, I'll take a look at your property. I can give you some helpful tips on what to do and not to do while you're eventually preparing it for sale. Let's do anything that would maximize what you're going to get from your property. I can point out what those things are. We can talk about, what you'll have left in your pocket, their closing costs that you'll incur. But more importantly, what we can do is, if I know accurately what you're looking for, I can take down your criteria and I can set you up to receive daily emails of all the properties in the market that come available that match exactly what you're looking for, particularly the great deals, the hard to find properties, distressed sales, bank foreclosures, company-owned properties, private sales, pocket listings from other realtors. All of these types of properties, if they match what you and your spouse are looking for, they'll be sitting in your email inbox immediately. But I just need to know what you're looking for. So when are you available to sit down and we can do all of this stuff together at your home? There's no cost to it. I'm flexible. What's a good time for you? Days, evenings, what would be best? And I didn't say weekends because it's Monday today. And if I say weekends, I know damn well you're going to say weekends. And now I have to wait 5 days. And I know in 5 days, the appointment's less likely to happen than it is now. So I might say, what's better, morning, afternoon, something in the evenings, what would be best? There, you got 3 options. You're going to pick one, and I'm going to book the appointment in the next couple days. Good question. Who's next, Andrea?
We have a question from Becky, and her and I have been chatting back and forth a little bit, but we wanted to get your thoughts. She's having a little bit of trouble with Facebook, not necessarily with posting ads or anything like that, just basic account type questions and how she can pay. She's already contacted her coach. She didn't know about much about Facebook, and Facebook direct contact hasn't been in touch with her. What would you suggest on her getting more help?
I have to tell you that we've got some webinars that Rick and Aaron have done that are really comprehensive in showing you how to set it up, and I'd recommend taking a look at those right on the coaching website. You know what I'm talking about, Andrea?
I do. There are several ones. I'm not sure those will help her, but I do suggest that she watches those just to maybe get an idea of her best approach. But you can find those in the, I went to the wrong spot. I'm sorry. The file library.
Here's the other thing as well, Andrea, is if you have Success Website, regardless of whether they are managing your Facebook campaigns or not, if you have Success Website, you can call them and ask them your questions about running Facebook ads, okay, to drive traffic to your Success Website. It doesn't mean they have to do it for you, but they can at least answer your questions in setting up, because they set up Facebook ads for hundreds and hundreds of our students. So they know, they would be able to answer every question as far as the technical questions about what you're looking to do. I'm sorry, Andrea, go ahead.
No, that's okay. I was in the wrong spot earlier. So all you have to do is just go to the file library, type in Facebook, and the 2 Facebook webinars that James suggested are listed there. And she's saying Success was not able to help either. So
Really? They were
really,
not
well,
able to
with
help,
her,
right?
I don't want to get too involved in Becky's the personal problem, but it has to do with a credit card and her account being locked. So I don't know anybody at our office who'd be able to help with that.
You're probably just going to have to call. It sounds like you're just going to have to get in touch with the management team at Facebook and troubleshoot it, because this doesn't sound like a normal problem. It sounds like something unusual.
Personal to her.
And out of the ordinary, so perhaps they'll have a remedy to that.
Yes.
Okay, let's take a couple more, Andrea, if there are.
We do. We have a lot more. Let's see. We have Michelle. What would you recommend when meeting with a buyer if they are not willing to pay the upfront fee, despite saying they're ready to commit to the buyer representation after going through the presentation? Would you waive the fee?
Yes.
She goes on to say she offered to reimburse the fee.
At least make them feel like they've got something. So if you say, look, here's the deal, I don't want a few $100 fee to get in the way of us doing business. So here's what I'm going to do, okay? I'm going to waive the fee, and what I'm going to do is this. If at the end of the transaction, I'm going to leave it up to you, but if at the end of the transaction you feel that I have met your expectations, better than that, if you feel that I've exceeded your expectations, okay, then and only then can you pay the additional fee, or will you pay the additional fee? But I'll leave the onus completely up to you, so that I have to prove to you that I'm going to do a better job than anticipated. Does that sound fair? I'm not going to let this get in the way, and I'm going to waive this today. How's that sound? Now, who's the big winner here? Right? You're not getting it anyway. You're not getting it anyway. So the worst case scenario is you're not going to get it anyway. The best case scenario is they really feel confidence in you now. I mean, this is just all so obvious. You're going to get paid when they purchase a property a whole lot more than your upfront fee. So if you didn't get your upfront fee, you didn't get your upfront fee. But I think what you're going to find is that it's the exception, not the rule. Great question. Who's next?
Okay, our next question is, I've created an ad in the newspaper for the first-time home buyer and use the toll-free number to call, but I noticed people are not leaving messages. They are instead hanging up. Do you think it's better that I just put my website address?
No, I think you should have both. You should have both. Why wouldn't you have both? Here's the thing, though. I would like to look at the ad to see what it is that you're offering, because if you think about it, okay, watch this. If you are offering prospects some information, well, the only way you could get the information calling into a 1-800 number would only be by leaving a message, right? So that means that I need to see two things. Number one, what is it that you're offering in the ad? And then what is it that prospects are hearing when they call into the 1-800 number? And I also want to make sure that there really are prospects calling into the 1-800 number. And in fact, it's not just you calling in and listening and testing it. It's actually you know what I'm saying. In other words, are prospects calling in? Are they really calling the number sufficiently? Is the ad working to cause prospects to call? But if you think about it, if you offered a let's say you offered a list of first-time buyer condos and townhomes for a free list, call 24 hours for recorded information at 1-800. If I call into that number, I know that I cannot look at properties over a phone line. I know that the only thing I can do is request the properties. So I have to leave information. So everybody has a level of expectation that they have to leave a message if they want to get something. And the only reason that they'd be calling is because they want to get something. So if we think about that, I want to look at the ad, see what you're offering. I want to listen to the hotline and see what it says. And this can be fixed. But as a minimum in the meantime, I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, you should have both the hotline and the website in your ad, unless one exception only, unless it is an editorial style ad. If it's an editorial article, I would go with just the hotline, certainly to start with anyway. Okay, let's take another, Andrea.
Okay, our next question comes from Murray. Regarding the Gold Plan follow-up letter campaign, one of the letters indicates it includes a DVD video on selling strategies for the potential seller. Can you please provide more insight on that video content? Is there a copy that can be viewed to understand the content or a script to follow?
Yeah, I would go to Lifestyle Media. All right, so Andrea, you know that Lifestyle Media put this kind of thing together, these packages like this. And they have all the content and all the information right there. And yeah, this is really good stuff. And it can be customized, it can be generic, it can be information based, it can be USP based. But Lifestyle Media is the company that we work with, and they can put together this kind of information for you to augment your follow-up, your lead generation as well as follow-up. All right, let's take another, Andrea.
Okay. Paul would like to know, what is Bold Leads?
Primarily, what Bold Leads do is they run ads on Facebook. Now, they also run pay-per-click stuff, but their best lead generators are they run ads on Facebook, and they offer online home evaluations, lists of properties. But here's what they do, okay? They don't just run the ads for you, but they also generate the actual lead. So all you get in your email inbox is the lead, all right, from Bold Leads. So they go directly to you. They're prospects that have requested area properties that have sold, or an online home evaluation, area home sales report. All of those leads are going directly to you. In other words, you don't funnel them to your website. Bold Leads does all of it for you. And what they're really good at is pinpointing who sees the ad. In other words, the demographics in your particular marketplace, your zip codes, who sees the ad. That's what they're really good at, so that they make sure that they get the biggest bang for your buck. And anyway, they do a really outstanding job. And they, if you work with them, they will get this up and running quickly, so that every day you're generating leads. And I legitimately mean every day you're generating leads from Bold Leads. Okay, let's take another one, Andrea.
Okay, we have a couple of our members who are having trouble with the ad generator, either customizing it, or it's not, saying the right things. Something that maybe you should get with your personal one-on-one coach. I know different settings on printers and different settings on devices can cause issues, but your coach can definitely help you with that.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true.
Okay,
why don't we take one more for today, Andrea, and then we'll wrap it up, because we can always take any additional questions on our upcoming webinars this week.
Right. Okay, Hussein types in, what is the value on every lead generated to understand if my result is good or not?
Well, you're trying to figure out how to determine return on investment? That sounds like a reasonable question. Okay, well, here's a couple things you need to figure out. Okay, return on investment, we can look at how much commission did you take in and how much did you spend on generating the leads in the first place. And obviously we divide one by the other and we can figure out what a lead is worth to you. But we also want to look at it in terms of, well, what does a lead cost? So forget about what happens with the lead. In other words, let's put aside, did you generate a return on investment from the lead, but let's figure out, what does it cost you to even generate a lead in the first place? We can very easily do that, obviously, by taking the number of leads you generated and the amount of money that you spent on those leads. Now, what's interesting is when you really do this properly, what you're going to determine is that not all leads are the same. In other words, you might spend a lot more money on a certain lead, and you might spend $15 to generate a lead over here. But your return on investment on those leads is very, very high. So although you spend a lot more money, you make a big return on investment because you sell a lot of real estate from those leads. Whereas another lead over here, you're generating leads for $3 a lead. However, the return on investment is much, much lower because it takes a lot more of those leads to procure a client and ultimately a sale. So all of these things are warranted, but we obviously need to we need to look at that and we need to track that. But this is important so that we do more of what generates us money, and we eliminate what doesn't. Or at least we figure out if something's generating leads and it's not resulting in income, what are we not doing with those leads? Is it the leads or is it what we're doing? Is it our system of lead conversion that's causing the problem here? It would be a real shame to eliminate prospects that you don't generate a return on investment from, not because the leads aren't good, but because we're not doing the right things to determine timing and motivation and convert those leads. Then that would be a real shame. We're just giving away money and it's our fault, not the lead's fault. And that happens all the time. So, you know what? A lot of this stuff we should talk about on Friday on our ad clinic, our marketing session on Friday. So we'll do that and see if we can't put together some good examples. And I also want to encourage you, upload your ads. Whatever you're doing, let's take a look at it. I mean, we're all able to look at an unlimited number of your ads. If you just want to go to the ad clinic, you can upload them very, very easily, and we'll take a look at as many as time permits, which can mean a couple dozen. So that's Friday. I'll look forward to that. Andrea, thanks so much for your help here today.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
You're very, very welcome. Yes, yeah, we've got a few different webinars coming up this week, so we'll really look forward to it. Hey, don't forget as well, as I mentioned at the beginning of the webinar, coming up in San Francisco is our boot camp. They're awesome. I mean, everybody really, really gets a lot out of spending the day. The next one is January 15th. That's a Friday in San Francisco, right at Marriott Union Square. Please RSVP and let us know that you're coming. We're not charging you money. It's a big room. If you want to bring, you've got an administrative person you want to bring with you or something like that, just let us know, and we'll have a really great day. So thanks so much, Andrea, and thanks everybody for participating. That concludes our webinar here today, and we'll look forward to speaking with all of you later in the week.
Thank you, James. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Have a wonderful afternoon.